Welcome to Magic Hour. My name is Paul Chappell, and today I am reviewing Greyhound, a movie starring Tom Hanks on Apple Plus. It was originally set to be released in the theaters sometime in June, and it got pushed back because of the pandemic. Well, I watched it last night, and I've had a little time to think about it. Overall, I enjoyed it. Of course, it's not hard to enjoy a Tom Hanks movie. Let's be serious. The man is a legend. He will always be a legend. He will always be great at playing that everyman hero character, like he did in Saving Private Ryan. I think that was the last time he visited World War II, where he does it again. The basic premise of this movie is that he is playing a commander named Ernest Cross. He's been given his first command of a destroyer during the Battle of the Atlantic. And he's about to ship out, and he sees a woman he's interested in, played by Elizabeth Shue. And he wants her to marry him, but she turns him down and says she would rather that they be together. So here's the first conflict in the story. He goes off to command this vessel. Now, I like to point out that this movie was based on a book by C.S. Forrester, whose most famous work is The African Queen. You may or may not have seen the Humphrey Bogart movie. Well, funny enough, Tom Hanks adapted the screenplay himself. So I read the synopsis of the book, and it differs a little bit, and we will get into that later. But let's get to what was good. Well, this movie was tense and action-packed. I mean, from start to finish. There was a lot of inner titles throughout the movie, so you never lost sense of time or where you were in time. So it was, I mean, they didn't waste any time getting you from here to there. That's why they were using the inner titles. So I didn't have a problem with that. It actually kept you centered throughout the action. But the action was just pretty real. What happens is, so I'm going to have some light spoilers from here on out. But what happens is the convoy that Tom Hanks's destroyer is protecting, they get attacked by an entire wolf pack of German submarines. And I think it's up to 6 submarines, and ships are exploding here and there and everywhere. And Tom Hanks is having to stay awake because effectively they're going to be under threat of German submarines until they get under air defenses, which are like a day out. So that's pretty much the premise of the movie. It works. I think my most favorite part of this movie was the tactical details. Every time the captain gives an order, he gives it in this Navy jargon that you really can't understand, and they don't slow down to explain it, which I like. I did understand a little bit of it because I actually have done research on naval stuff in the past, so I know what starboard is. Starboard is basically the right side of the ship. Port is the left side. Aft is the rear. So when they say go hard to starboard, I know they're turning right. But the good thing is the director of this movie, Aaron Snyder, he's a cinematographer. So everything looked great. Everything was lit well, although a lot of it was CGI. Let's be real about this. They did not use real ships in this. But the CGI wasn't distracting. It was actually looked pretty good. And I've said this in reviews in the past, CGI just gets better every year. So I think this was one of the first movies where they had a bunch of ships in the movie that I was really distracted by the CGI. But I just liked it from a logistical standpoint. The director was really good at directing your eye. He was really good at establishing where you were in action as opposed to the submarine. He just did that really, really great. I was never confused. So if you think you're going to go in this and you're not going to know what's going on, rest assured they do a really good job in making you understand what's happening in the action. And like I said, Tom Hanks was the hero. So it's easy to empathize with the protagonist. Sometimes, you see some movies, you don't care about the protagonist. You care about Tom Hanks. He's a devout Christian man. He's the type of captain that will pray before battle. So I know some conservatives will be happy about this movie, but I enjoyed all those aspects. So what was the bad? Let's get into the bad. And I'm going to have even more spoilers because I had some problems with a few things, and I hope I don't spoil it too much if you haven't already seen it. But my first problem with this would be that there was no stakes, or the stakes weren't as well defined as they could have been. Now, let me explain what stakes are. Stakes is what the protagonist has to lose. So in a typical Hollywood movie, what they would have done in the beginning is they would have given the Tom Hanks character, they would have given him a family or something. And that first scene that he has with the love of his life, played by Elizabeth Shue, they would have had them get married actually before he shipped off. So he would have something to lose. Or maybe they would have went further ahead into his marriage and they would have kids that he would be worried about. And they did a little bit of that. You see him, I think there was a couple of shots of him thinking about his fiance. But I just never felt like he had a lot to lose. And I understand in the novel, the big conflict was his internal struggle. And sometimes that doesn't come across in a movie because you really can't tell what the character is thinking unless you do a voiceover. And they didn't do a voiceover. But a lot of what was going on in the books is this was his first command. And some of the captains he's commanding in the other ships actually have more experience than him. So that was the major conflict. So he had self-doubt. And you can see a little bit in his portrayal, but it's really never, I don't think, explained like that. And there really wasn't any twist in the movie. It pretty much was just a battle. There was one scene where the Germans use a decoy and they chase the submarine that isn't there, but that's not really a twist. I just kept waiting for another shoe to drop and something really horrible to happen to them. And you really don't really see anything terrible. They do get hit one time, and it kills some people. And funny enough, they killed one of the main black characters, of course, because they have to kill the black guy. So I was kind of disappointed with that. And because the one black character on the ship is a butler, I guess, who's he keeps trying to deliver meals to Tom Hanks because he's been on his feet for like 48 hours. And he's played by a really great actor named Rob Morgan. And the guy's name is Cleveland. Yeah, like that cartoon character. I think his full name was George Cleveland. But come on, Cleveland, y'all couldn't come up with anything better than that? I mean, maybe that's the guy's name in the book. I got a feeling maybe it wasn't a character from the book, though, that Tom Hanks might have just added him just to have a black character. But he gets killed and you don't even see him get killed. You just hear somebody reporting to Tom Hanks that he got killed and Tom Hanks looking really sad. Oh. And then they have another black guy deliver his meal and you don't really see his face. And then the guy looks up and, oh, it's not Cleveland. Oh, and he actually calls the guy Cleveland because I guess all black people look alike. Yeah, that was as cringe-worthy as I'm making it sound. But aside from that, I liked it. Let me not get too deep down that rabbit hole. But the other problem I had with it is there was no real villains. You never really get to see the Germans. You hear one of the German in command of the Wolf Pack. He's on their radio broadcast telling them that they're going to die. And, they end up blowing up 4 submarines. So 2 of them get away. You're not really sure whether the guy that was boasting that they were going to kill everybody, whether he actually died or not. I would have liked to know that ass had got what was coming to him, but you never find out. So I wish they had really done something more of the villains, because I'm a great fan of Das Boots, which is Das Boot, or I don't know how you pronounce it in German, but there was a very famous German war movie about the Germans in the submarines, and you kind of sympathize with the German. Well, you don't sympathize with the Germans in this movie. So I like that dichotomy, that I have the vision in my head of what Germans are like in one movie, then, and I kind of sympathize with those guys. But in this movie, they're just straight up villains. And I think it would have helped if I could have actually seen them. The last thing I'll say that I was kind of disappointed with was I didn't know any of the actors. Everybody on Tom Hanks's ship was an unknown actor that I've never seen before. We didn't invest much time in any of them. So you didn't know any of their backstory. Yeah, so you really didn't, when they started, some of them started dying, you didn't even know who died, and you didn't even know why you should care. So like I said, that just goes back to the stakes. The stakes were not very high because you did not know any of the characters. Like in Das Boot, you get to learn who all the sailors on the submarine are, and then slowly but surely they start going through all this trauma, and you feel for them. And of course, some of them die, and you feel for them at the end of the movie. Well, I didn't get that in this movie. The only person that I knew of who were recognizable to me was Tom Hanks, Elizabeth Shue, who only appeared for like 2 minutes in the movie, strangely enough, and then the black character played by Rob Morgan. I'd seen him in a bunch of Netflix, like Rob Morgan. He's been in Stranger Things. He's been in Daredevil. He's a black actor who pretty much works for Netflix. I don't know if that had anything to do with him being in this movie. Well, I guess Netflix didn't buy it, did it? It was Apple. But anyway, he's really actor for Netflix, and he ended up in this movie that ended up screaming on a service just like all the other shows he appears in. So I thought that was kind of weird. But overall, I enjoyed the movie. I would say go ahead and go watch it. Screaming now on Apple Plus. Yeah, I liked it. And, you always win with Tom Hanks. But that's all I got for today. I'd like to thank my subscribers and encourage you. If you haven't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. What are you waiting for? You don't have anything better to do. Just go ahead and subscribe to my channel. If you want to hear some more of these videos, and you're already a subscriber, go ahead and hit that bell so you know when my next video drops. And thank you again, and I will see you when I see you. I'm out.